Shut up and sit down.
Hello, Phantoms fans. Welcome to the Dump and Chase podcast. I'm Sam Olmstead.
And I'm Justin Irwin.
Let's do it.
All right, and we're back at it again. The smell is in the air. Hockey must be right around the corner. Justin, can you smell it?
Yeah, it smells like last season's unwashed gym bag and Zamboni exhaust.
That's junior hockey right around the corner. We are back. We've got to sit through a couple preseason games. Got a good idea of what the team is starting to look like this year. Cuts will still have to be made to the 30-man roster, but we do have the 30-man roster. So we're just going to dive right into it, going through who made the 30-man protected list. Now, there's a couple variations on what was released. There was the initial 30-man released, and of course, changes are going to be made. So we're going to be going off of what the USHL has listed as the team rosters right now, plus what we saw in the preseason games this past weekend. So right off the bat, we're going to be kicking it off with the forwards and players returning from last year, starting off with Trevor Kuntar. What are you expecting from Trevor this season?
It looks like in preseason he has a lot more energy, which that's scary in itself. He's always been a high-tempo player. Hopefully he just continues the development as he has been.
Now moving on to Ben Schoen, who kind of middled for most of last season. About the last month and a half or so, he really came on at the end of the season, ended up with 6 goals, 22 assists. But that last month or so, he really picked up his game. And what we've seen in preseason, he looks like he's been shot out of a cannon so far.
Yeah, he definitely has a lot more jump in his step, definitely picking up where he left off last season. Yeah, shot out of a cannon is exactly the way I would put it.
And then we have Josh DeLuca, returning this year, 4 goals, 8 assists. He's another one that really looks like he's upped his game over the summer.
Again, like the other two, a lot faster tempo, it looks like. Last season, I think he kind of was more of an enforcer, and what I saw looked like he should be pretty reliable as a scorer this season. And
rounding out the returning forwards is Arseny Smeknov. What do you see from him this year?
Well, he's one that's going to be kind of hard to qualify. Yeah, he was somewhat invisible most of last season. He did look to be a little bit better, a little bit quicker step.
Okay, now we'll move on to the forwards for the Phantoms, the ones that were picked up in the Phase 2 draft this year. Starting off, we have John Beaton, a 4th-round pick, spent last season with the Kemptville 73s in the Central Canadian Hockey League.
Yeah, he did not play in the preseason game, so I don't have a whole lot of read on him.
And then we move on to Bradley Merrick. Bradley Merrick, we picked up, actually not in the Phase 2 draft, picked up in the Central Illinois dispersal draft. 18 points for them last season. What do you think he could bring to Youngstown this year?
He's got a very large frame. Could be used as a grinder. Might also be pretty effective in front of the net.
And then we have Jacob Felker, spent last season with the Jamestown Rebels, which was who the Phantoms played this past weekend. We actually got to speak to, I believe, somebody who was a team official for Jamestown, had a lot of high praise for Felker.
Yeah, and I could see he looks like a guy who can play a two-way game. Not sure he'll fit in on a line chart, but we might see him in a uniform.
And then, of course, a player we have really been keeping tabs on this offseason since he was drafted. Again, a 22nd round pick in the Phase 2 draft. Roughly 440 kids taken before him. Playing last year for Pursuit of Excellence and the Canadian Sports School Hockey League is Yusako Ando, and everything we've seen so far, this kid is as advertised.
Yeah, we've been kind of hyping him up a lot, and every time we see him, I think he exceeds everything we've said about him. Definitely played great in these 2 games. Not afraid of contact despite his size. A lot of energy. Really, really great hands.
And then another one who really looked good these 2 preseason games, Garrett Dahm from the Austin Bruins of the North American Hockey League. He was a 20th round pick, did not seem to have much trouble putting pucks in the back of the net this past weekend.
No, he, to me, was the big surprise, at least for forwards. He seemed to be in the right place at the right time, not afraid to shoot the puck. It looks like, I think he's scheduled for NCAA next season, so he might only be here 1 year, but I think we can make a lot out of that 1 year.
And then also joining the team, we have Matthew Cassidy, spent last year with Quinnipiac, if I said that right. 15 games, no points scored. So just might have been one of those fourth line guys who only saw the ice, 5-6 minutes a game. Going back the year before that, played for the Brooks Bandits in the Alberta Junior Hockey League. Put up 42 points that season. How did he look to you?
Not a whole lot of impression from him. I didn't see anything negative, but he's one of those guys I just would kind of question where he's going to fit in, especially as an overager with one season.
And now we're going to move on to the player who probably will win the team award for best name this year, and that is Riley Funk. Played for the Portage Terriers in the Manitoba Junior Hockey League last season, put up 53 points, was a 6th-round draft pick. He was somebody who, on the ice this past weekend, really impressed me.
Yeah. From what we saw of him, he definitely has good size, good skill set, 18-year-old, so, we might be able to have him for 2 seasons. Definitely is going to increase the amount of times George Clinton has played at the Covelli. I'm pretty sure we'll see him in a Phantoms uniform.
Wait, George Clinton, or?
I would pay a lot of money to see that. I've seen George Clinton live twice. Phenomenal show if you ever get a chance to see it.
Yeah, but how was his slap shot?
I don't know how heavy it is, but he's got the endurance. He can grind down the top lines. The man can still play for 3 hours on stage. So,
all right, you see what happened there? We went off the rails. We swore we weren't going to do that, and look what we did.
Yes, good, way off. Okay.
Now I'm gonna go to bed tonight imagining George Clinton in hockey skates. But here we go. So these next 3 players were affiliates for the Phantoms last year. Moved up to the 30-man roster this year, not saying they will make the team, but these players were affiliates of the Phantoms last year, starting out with Garrett Steele. So what are we thinking about Garrett?
Garrett's one of those guys that he has put up decent numbers. Kind of a guy I've been looking at as being somebody who can step to the next level. Didn't really see a whole lot from him, though, this weekend, so not really sure.
Okay, and then next up we have Cade Lemmer, spent last year with Wausau West High, put up 56 points there, was called up for 2 games with the Phantoms, no points there. He seems like somebody with a legitimate shot to break the final 23-man roster this season.
Yeah, he's a guy I'm really looking at. He's an all-Wisconsin player in high school. He's not exactly tall. He's kind of a shorter, more compact frame. Could be a little wrecking ball in front of the net.
The last name here is one that Phantom fans should be somewhat familiar with, Jake Swade. Spent last season with Lone Star in the North American Hockey League. Was called up, played 10 games with the Phantoms. I believe we released him at the end of last season and then picked him up in the Phase 2 draft again this year. But he didn't play in either preseason game, so really not much to go on with him right now.
Yeah, he's one of those guys we kind of took advantage of the new rules regarding USHL, NAHL transfers. Definitely an asset player, definitely somebody who could be in the final roster or could be an affiliate that, we call up on a regular basis.
Okay, and then these last 3 players, we're kind of throwing them under the category of unknown, simply because they weren't drafted. We don't know if they came in trades because the USHL just doesn't post stuff like that this time of year. They were kids that just came in and tried out and made it onto the roster. Starting with Connor Milamach, spent last year with the Austin Bruins, 6 points. We got to see what kind of an impact Connor Milamach can make in a game on Saturday, I believe.
Yeah, we saw what kind of impact he can make on somebody's face. He got into a fight with one of the Jamestown Rebel players, Spencer Causeway. Causeway left his feet to throw a punch, missed that punch pretty badly, and Milamach just absolutely pummeled him.
I believe my phrase was, "What those were not teenage punches, those were grown man punches."
Yeah. I would not be the one to tell him he's not making the team, but then again, that's because I punch like a little girl.
And if you go to the YT Hockey Fan Facebook page, you can actually see video of the fight that Justin posted on there. It's over pretty quickly, but it is brutal to watch.
Yeah, I think it was pretty much over from the moment they decided to drop the gloves and take off the helmets.
Yeah, I do not think Roman Reigns would have approved of that Superman punch that he attempted to throw, because that was about the most of the offense he mustered in that probably 5-second fight.
Yeah, and I don't think the league will approve of them taking off their helmets, so... it is what it is.
Okay, next up we have, and I'm going to point this out, we do not have a pronunciation guide for these players' names yet, so right off the bat, we're probably going to get them wrong. Hopefully once the season starts, we'll do a little better job of that. Next one is Tristan Poissant, played for the Cornwall Colts of the Central Canadian Hockey League. 22 goals, 22 assists, 44 points last year. Really kind of seemed to struggle with puck control, the 2 games we saw over the weekend.
Yeah. Really great skating player, but his hands were as soft as concrete.
All right, and then rounding out the list of forwards, we have Hunter Brackett, spent last year with the Connecticut Junior Rangers and the Boston Little Bruins 18U. We really don't have much to go on about this kid.
Other than Steve Levy gave him a shout out on Twitter, not a whole lot here. Nothing favorable nor disfavorable from what we saw, so...
Okay, so now we'll move on to the defensemen, returning from last year, starting with Aiden Gallagher. Put up 10 points last season in 37 games, dealt with some injury issues throughout the season. Looks like so far he's come back very strong leading into this season.
Definitely looks like he's going to be a good two-way defenseman. I expect he will put up quite a few points from the blue line. And by from the blue line, I mean from the blue line or 10 feet from the net. He's not afraid to drop down into the slot and absolutely destroy the puck.
Okay, and then we have, returning this year, Nikolai Jensen. He's another one who definitely looks to be stepping up as far as the Phantoms' defensive pairings go.
Yeah, I thought last season he played well. He did have, I thought, some issues to work on. We'll see how he goes, but definitely looks like he will be one of the top defensemen again.
Okay, and then we have Jason Dobé, put up 18 points last season. He's another one, looked very strong. This past weekend, he was paired with Aiden Gallagher as the top defensive pair, and it really looked like it was a spot he had earned.
Yeah. Played well last season. Definitely looks to be taking his game up a little bit from there. He might be somebody you see with a letter on his jersey.
And then as far as the returning players, we rounded out with John Larkin. John Larkin was somebody 2 seasons ago, towards the end of the season, really came on strong. Last season, only put up 3 points during the year, seemed to be caught flat-footed more than anything. But again, towards the end of the season, started to pick up his game. What are you seeing from him this year?
Yeah. Last season, he seemed to take a step back from when he was an affiliate, but definitely looked fairly solid from what we saw over this last weekend. So,
okay, now looking at the defensive draft picks, we start out with Austin May, who, when the initial 30-man protected list was released, was listed as an affiliate, but appeared in a game this past weekend. Spent last year with the Oakland Junior Grizzlies. Still a young kid, capable of putting up points, that's for sure. He was the second round draft pick, I should say.
He was our first pick, round 2, after we gave up our first round futures pick and the whole Davis Codd fiasco. Yeah, definitely looked like a good mobile defenseman, real good skating for an 03 born player. Somebody definitely I can see as an affiliate getting called up for a few games.
Okay, and then we have the Phase 2 19th round pick, and again, hopefully by the time the season's over, we'll be getting these names right, but Lyndon Alger, spent last season with the Boston Junior Bandits. He was somebody who was in the third defensive pairing, both preseason games against Jamestown. What did you see in him?
He's a big guy. Seems to be able to hold his own. It'll probably, come down to, does he have the experience and skating ability to keep up in this league? So we'll have to see how things go when final cuts come around.
Okay, and then another big guy, roughly the same size as him. Here we go. Artyom Borshoff. I'll feel so much better when we have a pronunciation guide, because I am probably butchering these.
Yeah.
Spent last season with the Northern Cyclones in the NCDC. Put up 28 points. He was a 15-round pick in the Phase 2 draft. Both preseason games that we saw, he was in the second defensive pairing with a player we'll talk about here in a couple minutes. Definitely a kid that has some size. He was not afraid to kind of throw his weight around.
Definitely a physical defenseman. He's from Belarus, so he will be an import defenseman if he makes the team. I do like his aggressiveness. Import space is at a premium sometimes. Again, we'll just have to see where the cards fall.
The next one was an affiliate for the Phantoms last year. Did not get called up to the Phantoms, I do not believe. He was somebody who started on the affiliate list last year, but once the preseason started, was up playing with the team, and that is Spencer Evans. Spent last year with the Junior Islanders, put up 13 points in 29 games.
Somebody that really no faults in his game that I can see. 2002 born, so, is he ready for full-time USHL action? If not, we definitely have another capable defenseman on the affiliate list.
Okay, and then once again, we move on to what we call the unknowns. They're here. We're really not sure how, again, due to lack of information. But Caden Lewandowski comes to the Phantoms from the Pittsburgh Penguins Elite U18. Put up 18 points last season. He shared that second D-line with Borshoff. I mean, at least as far as we're concerned, coming out of nowhere, he was somebody who looked impressive.
Yeah, he's a 2000 born. I've seen him play a little bit with the Pittsburgh Penguins Elite. I kind of think he's going to make the cut. I thought he did pretty well.
Okay, and then we rounded out with Malik Alishlalov, whose brother was actually on the affiliates list last year, is on the affiliates list this year as well. Timur, I believe his name is. Split last season between Westminster Prep and the Neponset Valley River Rats. Another kid who's capable of putting up points. What was your impressions of him this past weekend?
Definitely a capable defenseman. I think he'll qualify as an import, so that will be something to fight with.
Okay, so then moving on to the goaltenders, we start out with who we feel most likely will probably be starting the season with the team, starting with Colin Purcell. Was a Phantoms draft pick last year, was on the affiliate list, has played with the Cleveland Barons. At least from what we saw from the half a game we saw him play, he looked pretty solid in net.
Yeah, he had a little bit of struggles earlier this year and some international tournament play. I don't think any of that carried over. He definitely looked solid. Allowed no goals in the half that he played, and if I recall correctly from the tryout camp, I don't recall him letting in any goals in the All-Star game either there, so...
And then we have Dominic Bassi, who was a Phantoms draft pick this year, but was somebody who was on the affiliates list last year, played with the Select Hockey Academy 18U. They were, I believe the league they played in, they won a national championship last season. He rounded it out, 1.91 goals against average, 924 save percentage. The thing that struck me about him, getting to see him play, was his poise in the net. Quite a few times there were scrums in front of the nets, shots coming left and right, bodies all over the place. He didn't seem fazed at all by any of it. I mean, he kept it all out.
Yeah, and even when he wasn't in position to make the save, he wasn't scrambling to get back into place and making things worse. He knew his defense was there to clean things up for him. Definitely looks like he's got a good head on his shoulders, and that's good because those shoulders are pretty high up there. He's tall.
Yeah.
Both he and Purcell.
Yeah, well, what was it? You got the picture with him and Brad Patterson. Yeah, Brad Patterson looked like a ventriloquist dummy standing next to him.
Yeah. I think even with the skates off, Patterson's not coming up to his shoulders, so...
No.
And I'll probably be putting the picture if you're watching the video feed of the podcast, I'm going to try to put the picture in there just to show you what we're talking about.
Oh, please do. And then we move on to our unknowns. Blaine Moore spent last year with Kent School. Numbers were pretty decent last season. He looked to struggle a little bit. Pretty much the 2 games with Jamestown, the Phantoms only allowed 3 goals. All 3 goals were allowed by Blaine Moore, including one that was a very, very soft goal, a puck deflection off his shoulder into the net.
Yeah, he wasn't the most comfortable looking in net. Might have just been a bad half a game, but this time of year, a bad half a game can mean the difference between being in the USHL and being in the North American Hockey League or BCHL or somewhere else.
And then finally, to round out the entire roster, we have either McLean or McLean Dorr. Again, we'll get these right someday. Split last season with the Brookings Blizzard and Topeka Pilots. He was somebody who's, if you look at his numbers from last season, didn't really inspire you, but he was one who actually looked very solid this past weekend.
Yeah. In net, he was the dark horse. He came out of way deep left field. Pittsburgh kid, 99 born goalie, played really solid. Definitely no fault in his game that I could see. Might give the other guys a run for their money, but Purcell and Bass are going to be pretty hard to shove out of there. So.
All right, so now we're going to take a quick look at the Phantoms preseason. Of course, last weekend, or a couple weekends ago, I should say, the game with the Maryland Black Bears of the North American Hockey League. We really have not anything to go off of on this game. We do know the Phantoms won 5-4, and we know that Yusaku Ando scored a goal in that thanks to other sources. But other than that, we really don't have much to go on there. This past Friday and Saturday, the Phantoms were at Deep Freeze in Boardman with the Jamestown Rebels. The game on Friday, the Phantoms won 5-0. The game on Saturday, the Phantoms won 5-3. And definitely I saw a lot of things from the Phantoms in these games that were things that I really wished I would have seen last season.
Yeah, definitely a little bit different style. We'll see how that holds over into the regular season. Definitely a lot more net crashing.
Yeah, a lot more carrying the puck into the zone. A lot more offensive pressure as soon as they enter the zone than we've seen in the past.
Yeah, and when they dumped the puck, they did actually chase.
Definitely, to me, Ben Schoen really stood out on the ice more than any other player. He looked like a team leader out there. Anytime he was on the ice, he was in control of the action. And based on what we saw at the end of last season, I think that could bode extremely well for the Phantoms.
Yeah, definitely. You got good supporting cast now for him. Guys who play with kind of the same style. Him and Trevor Kuntar used to kind of be the young kind of spark plug players. And now it looks like we got kind of a complement of players that I think will mesh and give us a lot of energy, hopefully, and especially early in the season.
And then, of course, the player we've been harping on all offseason again, Yusaku Ando, as good as advertised. As far as we know, every preseason game scored at least a goal, had a few assists smattered here and there. Basically, it was a kid. His puck handling had no problem weaving in and out of defenders, making crisp passes, getting shots on the net, getting good shots on the net. But yeah, this kid as good as we really hoped he would be based on just looking at his numbers.
And he turned 16 the day that camp started. So
yeah,
it's just kind of phenomenal that an 03 that young and that much potential already.
So, of course, before all this happened, we had the 2019-2020 schedule released. Just as far as a quick overview, we're not going to go game by game or anything like that. Schedule is pretty standard. I think the thing that hurts a little is with Central Illinois being gone, that kind of takes from what would be considered for Youngstown a local team away, so everything needs to be spread out a little bit more. Again, this year, between Team USA, the 17s and 18s, we play 5 games against each, 10 total. After that, Muskegon, we have 8 games with them, 6 games with Chicago, Green Bay, and Madison, and then 4 games with Cedar Rapids and Dubuque. As far as the Western Conference, 2 games against each of the teams in the Western Conference. The Phantoms start out the season 2 games in the Fall Classic in Cranberry. They are home for the next couple weekends after that. They play that, Thursday and Friday at the Fall Classic. and then come back to Youngstown Saturday for the home opener against Madison. Then they're at home the next 2 weeks after that. And then between October 14th and November 16th, there are no home games. We go a whole month stretch there with no games at the Covelli Center. They play 7 games away. So right off the bat, these guys are going to be getting in some travel time.
Yeah, and early on, maybe that's a good thing. They can use that road trip time for some team bonding. Of course, a lot of that depends on how those games go, play well. It's a fun drive back to Youngstown. You don't play well, it can be kind of a long, quiet ride back. So hopefully, those games will work in our advantage.
Yeah, at the start of the season, everything is very blocked together. The 2 in Cranberry, 5 home games to start the season, and then 7 away games, which take up an entire month. They come back for a 4-game homestand, and then they're back on the road again. And then we kind of have another month stretch where between November 27th and the very end of the year, December 31st, there is only 1 home game in that stretch. So from the start of the season until the end of 2019, the Phantoms play 10 home and 16 away. And then as far as the rest of the season is concerned after that, it's pretty normal, pretty typical what you see for a Phantoms schedule. At the end of the season, April 17th and 18th, the Phantoms will finish it out with Team USA, the U-17s. But as always, assuming that's who shows up.
Yeah. Hopefully things won't get quite as dramatic as they did at the end of last season. You never know. Again, some homestands later in the season will definitely work in our advantage. And, we typically end the season playing a bunch of games against USA. So, pretty much business as usual.
So pretty much that is going to wrap it up for this episode. So one of the new things, the channel that you're watching this video on right now, the YT Hockey Fan channel, this is actually the new channel for the Dump and Chase podcast, also for whatever highlights Justin is able to get a hold of through the season. So you definitely want to make sure you subscribe to this channel. This is where all future new videos will be. And also, next to the subscribe button, you got that little bell. That is the notification bell. Click on that bell, and every time something is uploaded to this channel, you will absolutely be the first to know. You will get a notification right away, so make sure you click on both of those. And yeah, season's right around the corner. We got the Fall Classic coming up, the home opener. So definitely can't wait to see everybody there. Thank you for listening, and we will talk to you next episode.
Bye-bye.
Oh, I'm so leaving that in.